Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 3:01. I'd also like to confirm that we have a quorum. And we'll start the meeting, yeah, as I said, 3:01. In attendance today, we have Deputy Clerk Miranda, and we have our clerk, Emily. We have our Water Board Committee, John. I will not use everybody's last names. I think you'll know your last names. And we have Britt and Adam. Thank you. I'll start off with, online we have Bruce and Grant. All right, thank you.
Yes, hello.
I'll start with the territorial land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Womack is located on the Mississauga and Anishinaabe territory and is a traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. The township of Womack respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I'd also like to mention that our board chair, Councillor Booth, will not be in attendance, and I'll be doing the meeting, chairing the meeting today. So we'll jump to number 4. And that is a motion to approve the agenda, that the agenda for the Grafton Communal Water Committee meeting held on May 15th, 2024 be approved. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Britt. And John, thank you for seconding that. We'll jump to number 5, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Do we have any declarations? Seeing none, will be none noted. Like to jump to item number 6, approval of the minutes. A motion to approve the minutes, that the minutes of March 20th, 2024, Grafton Communal Water Committee meeting minutes be approved. Could I have a a mover and a seconder, sorry. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, John. Now we'll jump to number 7. Any questions? I'm just going to do business arising. Would that cover it? Mm-hmm. No. Okay.
There's an amendment to the minutes.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Rick.
Section 6.2, the 2024 draft water budget item regarding the UV systems. I just put something here. And however it should be worded, I don't know, but I think it's significant enough that it should be included. The UV systems upgrades are for facilities not operating under the Grafton water system and are not applicable to the 2024 Grafton water system budget. That's pretty important because it's too easy to blend those expenses that don't belong to the users, less than roughly 400 users on the system. So rather than mixing that, because that is a council item, I just like to make that kind of delineation clear, but that's okay.
Can we make that addition, Yolanda?
Yes, I can look back on the recording as well and see what was mentioned during the minutes, but I'm sure that delineation was made.
Okay.
Sorry, nobody can probably hear me. I don't have any. Yes, we'll look at it.
Okay, thank you. Was that it, Kurt?
For that, yes, thank you.
All right, so we will now move on to business arising from the previous minutes. Does anybody have anything they would like to add to that?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead, Britt.
Sorry, Britt, I don't believe your microphone's on.
No, it isn't. The other thing is, I just got kicked out of the meeting and I'm trying to log back in. I'm not really going yet. Okay. To hear what else. I was trying to log in And then all of a sudden it came up as a Brandon Cole. I'm logged right back in. So let me try to get back in. No, we don't have him on the water committee. There we go.
Even if you're not logged in, Britt, they can hear you on the panel, so you want to proceed?
Yes, I will. Okay, this is arising. We discussed the 2024 budget at the last meeting, but the committee hadn't had time to really review it. And so I started working on that over the past 2 months. And I realized there's a lot of questions and items that need to be reviewed, not from a possible problem standpoint, just to help us understand as a committee the connection between the contract and the budget itself and the way the budget is laid out. And there are some items that need to be looked at. And just, it's so much. I thought we were going to be able to discuss this today. And plus I see on Bruce Heitkamp's report that there's additional items that need to be put in to the budget as well. And since we haven't approved the budget, I'm hoping that we can review it. So I'm asking if we need to have a special meeting for this purpose, can we make arrangements for that? Because it's a very important item. And I think it needs to actually stand alone because it has some, it will take some time.
Under the chair. So there is some transitioning happening right now as well with the Treasury Department, and we do have another interim treasurer that is has been appointed. Now the treasurer does typically attend these meetings as well to provide information to the committee on budget purposes and finances. I believe that once the budget itself is not yet finalized. And once it is, it does go to council for their approval. Now, I do know that the interim treasurer has to be brought up to speed with the water budget as well. So I'm going to maybe suggest that she come forward at the next meeting and potentially answer some questions pertaining to budget items should you have questions at that time.
What I heard. So to that end though, because there are more additional items and there are items missing and things, if it's still helpful that I put a list of questions down, that's fine. It's just there's a number. I thought it would be easier to go through it item by item, but I can try and put that together if that would be helpful.
Do you, Yolanda, do you have any idea when the budget would be ready for us, or will we need to call a special meeting to go over that? Or will we just be able to continue on with our, when is it, July 10th meeting? Or should we just wait for?
I'm not sure. Sorry, if I could defer this to the clerk. Emily, do you have any information on the budget and when that should be approved or coming forward, or if it's even going to come forward to the committee?
So we'll be coming forward to the committee for review and input. Once it's available, I'm not sure, I'm not privy to when it's ready. It is being reviewed by our acting state fire chief, who is also the interim acting manager, which is where water reports to. So he's currently going through it right now, just to make sure it's compliance with what's required from a capital perspective, and then it'll come to the committee. But in terms of timelines, I don't have any TA from them.
Okay. Go ahead.
Point of information, this will include capital works that need to be completed by, I assume, December 31st, 2024. Things like roofing are time and weather dependent, and I have lead times for materials for some of these things that are significant. So I'm sure I don't have to remind the committee that the impact of a August or September passage of a capital budget would have on the water system for the ratepayers of Grafton.
Thank you. Okay. And under business rising.
I think to Adam's concern, I don't think there's any question. I see that the pump house roof is in there in the budget, so I don't think there won't be any issues with approving these things. It's just going through some of the items that may not even pertain so much to what you need to get done. So it's not a huge issue.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to new business, number 8. And this will be our committee training. Thank you. So I'll move it over to you. I'm not sure if I've been moved or seconder for that. All right, good. Thank you. You got it.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
So my name is Emily Carter, I'm municipal clerk here for the Township Hall in McAlpin. So just a little bit of background as to why we're doing some training here today. So back in December of 2023, council has gave direction to staff to make terms of reference review for all of the advisory committees that we have in the township, as well as to provide some training. So it's not uncommon, it's a very common best practice actually to do advisory committee training and also council training at that halfway term. So since we're 2 years in, this is actually really a really good time to be delivering this as, again, sort of a refresher course in regards to the rules and expectations, roles and responsibilities, but also to kind of cover off some key points about the procedure bylaws, some meeting procedures, as well as the committee terms of reference. So one of the things that we'd be looking at here today is sort of going through this briefly. Please, I want to make it interactive. So if you have questions, it's an open forum, so please ask as we go if you need any clarification. Again, I know you guys have been doing this for 2 years already, so a lot of it's just going to be, like I said, a refresher course. But there is some new key pieces that have come up since the original start of term. In terms of some legislative changes that just kind of get everybody on the same page, which I'm sure we probably will learn. So without further ado, because I know you actually have work with things to deal with after this, but we'll do the mandatory pieces here. So in terms of what the role of a municipal advisory committee is, it's just exactly that. So they are advisory in nature. They have no, councils have created these advisory committees to provide community input and advice to council on your delegated topics. So obviously for today's purposes, we're talking about the Grafton communal water system. So it would be within your scope to talk about items related to that and service for our residents here. So in terms of the role of the committee, it's typically to make recommendations to council for consideration. So there's no real decision being made here at the committee on behalf of council. There's no authority in that sense. It's strictly advisory. And those recommendations can relate to policy and procedure, corporate initiatives and projects, community activities and events, or funding activities or spending requirements. So in your case, I just heard mention about a roof that might need some attention. So that would be a prime example of a recommendation to come forward that be approved through capital budget. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, the buck stops with council. So the recommendations can come forward, and obviously that's taken in as part of the bigger picture of council's decision-making process, and they have to weigh it against all of the competing priorities that come across the horseshoe as well. But usually they do take the advice of the advisory committees, certainly into great consideration. On the other side of the coin, council does lean on the advisory committees as well, and they can ask that matters be referred to the committee, whether it's to provide input on any legislation that might affect within their scope of work. So it could be legislation or any sort of provincial initiatives or grant opportunities that might come up, for instance, and see if there's anything that the advisory committee has at that point they'd like to offer some input on. So it is kind of a two-way reciprocal communication as well. So in terms of the code of conduct, so municipalities are required to have code of conduct for their council members. It's part of a requirement under the Municipal Act. And there were some recent changes to the Conflict of Interest Act, but also with the Municipal Act that holds committee members to the same standard as council members. So if you were appointed to a formal committee of council, then you have the same legislative requirements and obligations as our members of council. So this, the code of conduct, it outlines the roles, responsibilities, and the rules that sort of govern interactions amongst council members, staff, public, but also outlines accountability and transparency in municipal government. So that's really the crutch of it. It's making sure that we're operating kind of above board. So it's the code of conduct, it sort of glances over business relations, conduct at meetings, and protection of confidential information, conduct respecting staff in the municipality, again, protection of confidential information. So it's on there twice for a reason, just kind of maybe stress that point. Failure to adhere to policies and procedures and what would happen in those instances, as well as some outlines there in terms of what it means in return if you were happen to accept gifts or benefits and use of municipal property and sort of the rules that govern that. So the code of conduct is available online for all to read and see. So I encourage you to take a look at that. If you'd like, I can distribute that as well if you're interested in a copy of it. The code of conduct, so it is sort of monitored and enforced by the Integrity Commissioner and the Ontario Ombudsman. So it is part of the, again, the regulatory framework that municipalities have to play by. And we do have those checks and balances. So if any member of the public, staff or council member feels that there's been a breach of the code of conduct, they can reach out to our Integrity Commissioner. That is a third-party independent body to do an investigation and to look into it to see if there has been a breach, and then the Integrity Commissioner would then do a report back to council on what their findings were. Again, it's all in the interest of maintaining that accountability and transparency in local government. So the code of conduct does also touch on the declaration of pecuniary interest and conflict of interest. So these are, again, so we actually have a municipal conflict of interest legislation, which outlines what exactly is a conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. So since this is not your first time sitting through these, does anybody want to take a stab at what conflict of interest is?
Well, I guess, and none of us are doing this, but one of the things would, because we're on the, well, maybe this wouldn't be it. I was just thinking, because we sit on the water board, maybe we would not expect to have free water rights.
Correct. That'd be one example.
Yeah. Right.
We are a committee.
Yeah.
On the board.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. So it's, making sure that that doesn't happen. So it is interesting because in order to be on this committee, you have to be a water user, or a resident, sorry, but if you happen to be a water user and you're making decisions about the water system, there is a pieces within the act that actually exempt you because you're talking about the greater good, because it would affect the water system as a whole, not necessarily your particular house. Now, if you're talking about water services to your particular house, that's where we get into conflict of interest. But if we're talking big picture, broad system, then there's no conflict there because you're looking at, again, that bigger picture piece of it. So when it gets right down to it, the pecuniary interest piece of it is relating to money or financial gain, economic value. So in, for instance, using the example of getting free water, that would probably be an issue, voting on that's not going to work well. And you should excuse yourself from the conversation at that point if there's something particular to your street, which has 2 houses on it. So, yeah, high case example. So non-pecuniary, so this is a little bit different. So you have no financial or economic gain, but if you sit on another committee, another external committee, or community organization that could potentially benefit, even though you might not have a personal gain, any of your connections that could gain from it in that situation would be considered a non-pecuniary. So that would be something that you'd be looking to excuse yourself from the conversation for, just to not, again, that's accountability, transparency. By excusing yourself from the conversation, you're not there. No question of a doubt that you didn't influence the conversation. or the decision-making process. So it's all about, again, keeping things level, open, and moving forward in the best interest of the community as a whole. Again, it's a best practice that the member physically remove themselves from the room during that particular conversation. If you do have a conflict, again, just to make sure that you can say, I did not in fact influence any decision making. Because even though you might not have spoken or raised your hands, body language is also very loud at times too. So by physically having a seat outside in the waiting room, you can say, all was good.
May I ask a question on that? Because I do believe that the Conflict of Interest Act was revised 2 or 3 years ago, maybe. And they did say that people can stay in the room and listen to what goes on, that they don't actually have to leave. They just cannot vote. They cannot make any comments.
Correct. So you're not obligated to leave, but it's considered a best practice to leave, because then you can say that, well, I felt intimidated because somebody was sitting in the back, crossing their arms or huffing loudly or trying to influence without being at the table. So, so you're absolutely correct. You're not obligated or required to leave through the legislation, but it is considered best practice to step. And that's for protection for the member just as much as it is for the community as well.
Just coming back to the non-pecuniary, then, would that mean that if someone was involved with an organization that there is definite approvals coming through council that they should not be, they should be declaring that non-pecuniary interest and abstaining from any discussions and voting on it?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And again, it is completely discretionary to the member as to whether or not they feel there's an interest. So it's up to the individual members to make that.
Thank you.
So moving on here quickly, we're into the procedure bylaws. So council does have a procedure bylaw in place that again sort of outlines the rules of engagement for council. So it's power moving motions, making motions, to call out meetings, notice of meetings, agenda minutes, publication. And it's in place to really establish the rules of order for those meetings to make everything run smoothly and calmly and quickly and efficiently. So procedure bylaws, they are required under the Municipal Act. And again, it outlines the calling, the place, and the proceedings of meetings. So that's making sure that we are giving that public notice that yes, there's a meeting that is taking place and the public is able to participate and attend, certainly in the open portions of the meetings. Obviously, if we want them to attend, we have to let them know where it is. So we have to, under legislation, identify the address the meeting will be held at, or the location, sorry. And then making sure the proceedings of the meetings are also being recorded. So those are our minutes and making sure those get in a timely fashion. It's the role of the clerks and the deputy clerks to record meeting minutes without note or comment. It's strictly just the decisions of council and the committees. So when we do get into committee minutes, they're a little bit different because we do provide that contextual information that you typically wouldn't get in council meetings, only because the committees tend to have more of a working feel to them. So we provide as a courtesy those little tidbit bullet point notes every now and then, just so it makes it a little easier for referring them. So we are required to provide public notice of meetings, so we just can't have a meeting and let no one know about it. So again, it's all stems for the accountability and transparency. So our public notice meeting for council is it's approximately 8 days ahead of the meeting. We don't have anything in place that I've come across particular for committee meetings, but that is something that we're going to be looking at when we develop our committee policies as well. But we do look to our procedure bylaw as our sort of the meat and potatoes of it. And it does also apply to the advisory committee, that procedure bylaw as well. So in terms of what actually is a meeting, so it's any regular, special, or other meeting of council, local board, or a committee of either of them, where you have a quorum of members present, and where members discuss or otherwise deal with any matter in a way that materially advances business or decision-making of council. So that's a legislated piece out of the Municipal Act. And the interesting piece here is that emails can actually be considered meetings. If you're moving business forward in an email to a quorum of committee members, that's technically a meeting, but because it's an email chain, and I put this one back to you, have we provided notice to the public that we're discussing this? Have we announced that there's a place or a time in which it's taking?
So to that end, there's not in any of our dealings has that happened with this committee that I know of. Yeah, and if there is, it, we bring it to the committee to discuss. No, that's
Email.
Yeah, no, and that's.
Not because we didn't know we could.
We just haven't done it. And that's even better. So, yeah.
We have the land at the helm.
Yeah, perfect. So, so that's really good news to hear. So it's really a non-issue, but it is an interesting one because it is so easy just to hit reply all and just carry on the conversation. So it's good to hear it's not happening, but just so everybody's aware, it could constitute a meeting.
But there is no issue with a member of the committee talking to another member of the committee just to say, well, that's an interesting item, you know, it'll be interesting when we're going to discuss it at the next meeting, but it's not that we're sitting there making a decision. But that kind of conversation is perfectly normal.
Oh, yes, please do continue to talk
Right,
about it.
okay, good.
Thank you. Just go pop shop if you have forum.
Yeah. 2 is good, 3's a crowd.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yes. So in order for there to be a meeting to take place, so we do have to, again, provide notice of the meeting publicly, so make it publicly advertised. So we do that for our council portal on the website. You have to have the clerk or resident presence, you must have a quorum, and there has to be minutes taken. Again, without note or comment, most minutes have to be publicly edited. Yeah.
Minutes, is there a timeline? They should come out. I just heard before you said something about there's a deadline. Then we say it.
Yes.
So about minutes, is there a timeline? Just asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. So there's no timelines, no prescribed timelines in the procedure bylaw for the production of minutes. However, we do aim for as timely as possible because we want people to know what was discussed, we put it out there, allow that dialogue to happen as soon as possible. So we do publish the draft minutes, of course, with the disclaimer on the website that anything posted on the website is for informational purposes only, because obviously if they're draft, they can come back and you can say, well, no, I moved or I seconded, or we need to add something. So it's for information only, but we do aim for as timely as possible.
When are they posted on the website? And where would we look for that? Under the document center?
The minutes?
Yeah.
Yes, so you can find them through the document center under the AO2 folder for the CO5, I believe.
Yeah.
They'll be very clearly listed in document center, or you can go on the council portal homepage and there's a tab for meetings and you can look by.
Yeah, I've done all that.
Yeah, and they'll be listed under there as well.
Because I did try to find some minutes and they hadn't been posted yet, so I just was wondering what that timeline is you were speaking. Because when I looked through the minutes for this one, which just came out on our agenda, well, I did see them at the council meeting, but there were items on there that if I had recalled that particular line, I would have paid attention to that. So it is good if we can get meetings in a timely or minutes in a timely fashion, because it does help keep us on track.
Yeah, and we've been making some changes in the clerk's department for the process. So we've actually cleaned up our software that we use for minute and agenda creation, and it's really been a world of wonders in terms of the around.
I've seen a big change, yes.
Yeah, it's we're working smarter, not harder, making the computer do the work for us instead of doing a lot of making it ourselves. So using the tools at our disposal. All right, so we do have I'll keep this moving on here. So we do have open versus closed meetings. So all meetings to the public should be open. There are very few exceptions under the rules. Under the legislation, under section 239, that does actually permit us to close a meeting to the public, but they are very, very specific reasons. So we just can't close because we don't want somebody to hear about it. So again, it's considered open unless there's a solid reason to go on those. And then just on that side, again, out there, but email correspondence can be considered closed meetings, and there has been different instances where the ombudsman has made rulings that you were conducting business, it was a closed meeting, you didn't get proper notice, so. But it's not happening here, so let's carry on. So in terms of meeting procedures, so we are the clerk and deputy clerk, so we are providing that committee support. So we're here to support you guys and all of our committees and helping get those agendas created, especially on our not new software. So we can get that public piece out. It's making sure the public notices out there. We do aim to get them at least minimum of 48 business hours right now, committee minutes. And we will be emailing them to committee members, and they again are accessible on the council portal. And should you have any items to add to the agenda, we just ask that you send them to the chair first, and then the chair, the clerk or designate will, and clerk or deputy clerk will then work together to get the agendas out. In terms of minutes, so they are submitted to the council agendas for information. So even if it is your draft minute, because of the meeting schedules that we have here, we do want the information to still get to council. So even though you might not have approved them, because of the way the schedules work, it could be 4 months, 3 or 4 months before a set of approved minutes could end up in our council. So at this point, we're into the next quarter potentially. Yeah. So what we've started to do is put those draft minutes just there for information. And because you would then have your committee liaisons, your council liaisons sitting at the workshop, obviously they speak to any questions that any other members may have. It's just a way to kind of speed up the information sharing piece as well. So council does not approve the committee minutes. That's still up to the committee themselves, but as I mentioned, they just go to council for information. So I'm going to go through this a little quickly because you've been running successful meetings, so carry on. But the role of the presiding officer, I won't get too deep into it, but it's on the slide there. So they essentially are the quarterback for the meeting. So they're calling the meeting to order. They're asking for any community interest. They're helping guide you through the agenda and then also guide the discussion as well. Sorry, not guide the discussion, keep the discussion in check. So, and of course, it's during the meeting. So role of members. So we ask that everybody, if you've signed on to volunteer, to please attend meetings as scheduled and speak only on the subject of debate or question. And that's really out of respect of everybody's time at the table so that we don't start going down the rabbit holes, keeping things to the point and on topic. It just makes for a very efficient, very streamlined meeting. But also if we start going off topic, if that's not on the agenda, then we get into questions as to whether or not did we provide adequate notice to the public, because now we're talking about something that we told them wasn't on the table. So that's, you know, another reason you speak only to the topic. Just ask that rules and members that we follow the rules and procedures. They wait till they're given the floor before speaking, and we're really looking for a display of respect and decorum when you take a seat at the table, and everybody's here has a fair chance to say their piece and have their opinion on the matter. And that's exactly what it is we're after, is that input from the committee. And of course, the last bit is to refrain from use of insulting or indecent language. Again, keeping everything professional and clean and, you know, and running that way. We want everybody to have an enjoyable time. So in terms of meeting procedures, so we are looking for some motions and resolutions. So I won't dwell on this. You guys have been doing this for 2 years. What's a motion? What's a resolution? What's the difference?
The motion is proposing to do something.
Get it on.
Resolution is
You do it all.
Bingo.
A resolution is where everyone has already agreed that that's what we're going to do.
Exactly.
Whereas a motion you get, someone can not vote. So
we do the countries.
You want to make sure it's the right recommendation, the right resolution. So those resolutions are what end up in front of council through the minutes. One of the things that we are doing is we are pulling out if there's any recommendations or resolutions made by our advisory committees. We're now pulling those out of the agenda and putting them directly on the council agenda, so they're not buried within a. They're not buried. They're sitting right there front and center. So your motions are either carried or defeated by a majority vote, and there. One thing of interest here is abstaining from voting is actually considered a negative vote, so don't think that it just, yeah, if you don't vote, it counts as a no, so. Yeah, abstaining is a from the total. Tied votes are defeated motions, and a motion without a seconder is considered a failed motion, and that's as far as it goes, and it's where she goes.
No offers to get a seconder.
Nope, you can try, but if you don't get it, we're moving on to the next one. So that's all that I had for you today. So short and sweet, but happy to answer any questions or anything along those lines in terms of the meeting procedures piece of it. The next piece that I wanted to kind of touch on over time was the committee terms of reference review. So we are going through the terms of reference for all our committees, but we are looking for some input. So in terms of what this committee does and exists, it might be a better question looking at everybody present to sort of sit down and see if there's any changes. Although I don't believe this committee has a approved document in terms of reference right now. It's just a high level mandate. So that's something that we'd be looking for committee input on when we get to the point of either crafting the committee and whether or not you feel it's a viable committee to continue, or if you think it might have run its course with the projects that you've completed and run forward with. So that's what I'm
And I think when I look at the, did you have your hand up? Oh, sorry. If I may, one of the things that I think differentiates us from the other committees and boards is that these are the water users that are sitting on this. So I know some of the other terms, I'm just wondering if that would be deleted from that, where that you're only allowed to sit on 2 terms without having a break. So when I look at that, I just wonder where that would fit in if it does.
in terms of number of consecutive terms.
Yeah, the length of sitting on a water meeting.
Yep. So that is considered a best practice is to have a 2-term maximum. Of course, there's always exceptions to the rules when your volunteerism is down across the province. So there's always exceptions to the rules, but ideally you want everybody to have an equal opportunity to participate. So by setting that 2-term maximum, you're allowing new people, new ideas to come in. But that's not to say that you've served your 2, you're done, sit out for 4 years, you can reapply, you can sit back.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get people to apply to sit on the committee, then you might not have a committee.
Well, that's what I was getting at. So
yeah, so
we have put a notice for people to come on.
Yeah, so there would be a mechanism in place that if council decides after going through it that you don't have enough, then yes, if you'd like to sit as 3rd term, council can make that decision to extend the terms of an repeat. But it is a best practice in community management to have a 2-term max.
I think we have to do that inclusion. Thank you. Go ahead, Rick.
Just to add a little bit of context to that too, the water committee is rather a small portion because it's representing only a very small portion of the township population as opposed to the Rec and Culture Committee, which represents everyone in the township. So, and it's also a very important health and safety aspect because drinking water is vital to, and excellent drinking water, and Lucy is fantastic as a provider for the services. So, but as far as committee members go, because we have to do training for it, and we understand all of the ins and outs, unless a procedure, policy, understanding, description, everything is provided, created. So that any newcomers coming in, and I think it has to be done anyways, so that's something I'd like to see going forward, but that's for another discussion. But I think the continuity of the importance of the information and the fact that there is the technical information involved too. So it's a steeper learning curve than just dealing with other types of events going on and things, so.
Very good. Any other comments? Thank you, Emily. That was very informative.
Thank you. Well, that's it. I'll excuse myself and ladies to business, but thanks so much for having me. And any questions, feel free to reach out and to answer anything that we can find.
Thank you. So we will venture on to item number 9, financial reports and budget to actual to March 31st, 2024. That the budget to actual financial report to March 31st, 2024 be received and filed. I have a mover and a seconder to get it on the floor. Thank you, John. Thank you, Britt, for seconding that. Are there any questions for that? Go ahead, Britt.
Given that we don't have the treasurer present, I would ask Adam, have you reviewed to the end of April? It looks reasonable to me. I didn't see anything that jumped out. Do you have anything that you would comment on?
Thank you, Adam.
Volume? My mic's on.
And you have your
It's.
Now you're not worldwide. Oh, yes, you are. Me? I have this house. I'm muted. I'm muted.
He's got a beach to dance to.
Let's get out of it.
That's fair.
It's everybody's mics. I'm sure it's not at the system.
We're testing. Sorry, technical difficulties. One moment.
Look at the body.
But it's maybe. Hold on.
Sounds like. Miles. This is ridiculous.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, but we. Don't know.
What's the setting on the TV setup? I think that's where you were heading, right?
Somebody shouldn't be screwing around with the volume on the TV at all.
Emily had an issue with hers because something changed. I'm not following the monitor.
Yeah, I
don't know what happens with this
system, but it shouldn't be doing any of this. This is why we need a new system.
My computer.
Okay, something's going up with the system. Yeah, I think it's either from that. And everything I choose is the same, so I'm not sure. That should be the TV, which is really loud.
Nothing's coming through the house.
Well, this TV's off. It's very. If we don't have the TV on, we'll be able to hear Bruce and Grant.
The big hall.
Same thing, they still have to be on.
Can somebody maybe text on the microphone right now? Let's see what it does.
Hello, 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 nothing. Let me put it on. Hello, hello, hello. Just, yeah, you can hear that, right?
Yeah.
This is
Ask Bruce or Grant if they can hear you.
Bruce or Grant,
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
I can't. I have a lot of echo.
Now,
Yeah,
I can't hear any response from them, they're trying to see.
Yeah.
But
It
it's not
sounds like
working.
the echo just stopped now, but when Adam
Should
started
you want to
talking,
ask us all
the
to
echo
log out
started.
and log back in?
Does anybody have the microphone on?
Nope.
So you can just go.
Yeah.
Leave the TV.
It's gotta be.
Whatever the input is, it's not right. Well, it's, usually happens before us, when something's happened with the audio. Yeah, something's changed, but I can hear Well, I'm not sure.
We maybe get Emily to come up with that log?
No, you don't have an audio section. I'm not sure what you guys want to do. The only way we're gonna hear is gonna be through that TV and it keeps reverberating, so we're not gonna be able to get anybody, even if Bruce and Grant were to log off and call in, we would not be able to hear.
Could Adam call in and then do something on his cell phone that would be speaker?
There's different locations.
I mean, we can turn off this TV, we can still record via Zoom, what is being said. As long as we're talking on microphones, then it should be able to pick up the recording at least. I don't know, Bruce, Grant, are you guys okay with calling in and potentially speaking off of a cell phone?
Yeah, I can try that. Sure.
It just improved. I think Grit logged out and I don't have the echo anymore.
Test.
Test.
You fixed it.
I don't think I fixed it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Well, that was a weird glitch.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I think it's okay now.
Yeah, sounds okay for me too now.
I don't know, I must find something. Okay.
All right, so where we left off, everyone, yeah, number 9, and we had a mover and a second, I believe, to have brought that on the floor, and Rick, you were asking Adam some questions on the budget to actuals. to March 31st.
No, to the end of April. There's no need to do March, just the end of April at this point. Was there, did anything jump out at you? I took a look through it, but it looked like things were on track.
There's so much of build expenses and revenues will still be and there this will be 192 bills from Lucy and just your first 1 or 2 cycles of billing. Nothing jumps out at me, but there hasn't been a great deal accomplished within the system. It's flushing will not have occurred. You don't see any valve turning, anything like that. It's very minimal, so.
Okay, and we will, if I may, John, did you have anything you wanted to ask on the financials till the end of April? No. So we will look for a big update maybe when we get the financials and everything back. So,
sorry, Madam Chair. I did get a note from Nicole, our previous treasurer. She did say in her email to me, just ensure that the water committee is aware that I put in preliminary water budget numbers only. And if any of the numbers change, they will need to have the new treasurer go into Keystone and update them. So like she said, she's already noted that there could be changes to the potential draft budget that we have coming forward. And the new treasurer will be aware of those changes.
I'll go ahead, Greg.
May I ask if we can work on something to speed up that process so that we're not waiting till the next water committee meeting in July, because as Adam has alluded to, they do need to get going on their projects.
As for timelines, I'm not sure when this can be tackled or brought forward to the committee. Potentially we could hold a meeting in June, let's say, but maybe we should, we'll discuss it maybe with the treasurer, see how quickly they can get up to speed on the numbers, seeing if there's new changes to those numbers, and maybe have a discussion about whether or not it would be advisable to hold a special meeting.
Okay, so we'll wait for an update on that. Go ahead, Greg.
Could we make a recommendation then that to council that they approve the roof at this point in time ahead of the budget being approved so that Lucy can go ahead and get that underway? Because this is the time of year to do that, right? Would that be helpful, Adam?
Sure. At this point, we'll do whatever is the pleasure of council.
Adams, the roof is the one thing now that you'd like to get moved on. Was there another one other than the well itself?
Certainly the roof will take some time to get started. And this is the season, however, to council in time rather than split it. Sub resolutions packages are probably best.
And we do know that this is something that needs to be moved. Thank you. All in favor of that report? So the next one is item number 10. Projects, current updates, construction, and other.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Madam Chair, for you. Under the financial reports, there was 2 separate recommendations there for each budget to actual, but if you wanted to include both in the one resolution, we could potentially do that as long as the mover and seconder are okay. Perfect.
We agreed for that, and we didn't do the formal process, so thank you for that. All in favor of all that? Thank you. Now we'll move on to number 10, projects, current updates, construction, and other. And I will turn to the operation report from Larry, manager of water capital projects for Lucy. Read the Grafton drinking water system report. Forwarding period March to April 2024. Go ahead, Larry.
Larry's not present, but the operations. So I can get a question, I suppose.
Thank you.
It's a fairly simple and succinct setup there. We have everything was completed the first. Even to date, we've begun doing flushing in the system, and it has been completed, even though it isn't reflected because there's some lag time there within the system. Sorry. Also, for some reason, treated water some exchange. But yeah.
Sorry, what numbers was that?
Sorry, January and February numbers here for flows. They must be much in April.
That needs a correction.
It's correct. So you're January.
Oh, right. The Russian problem.
I'm not sure how that made that there, but at any rate.
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Greg.
I noticed on at the end of the report under the Grafton drinking water system, it says the internal audit for the drinking water system is scheduled for August of this year. Is that an operations audit of the drinking water system, or is it a financial audit?
Through the chair, that is actually it's a drinking water quality management system audit, which is conducted on an annual basis as part of the regulatory framework of the clean.
So what does it audit?
It audits the drinking water quality management system.
Okay, so it is like an operations audit.
It's actually the quality control system that exists to administrate operations.
Oh, okay.
So it's not operations in and of themselves. It's the documentation that guides it, so to speak.
Perfect, thank you.
John, did you have any questions? I just had one, Adam, and it had to do with the new treatment plant, and the well step testing was completed December 4th through the 7th. And with the plant off during that time, the fire department placed on shuttle service. So I just wondered, what is that procedure for you?
Certainly. So that actually was conducted by Bruce and with Greg Galloway, I would imagine, and basically the well is down for a certain amount of time, and adding increasing flows, if I'm not mistaken. Bruce will be the expert here during that time, so as not to affect the levels in the aquifer, because it's really measuring the response of the aquifer to the pumping. During that time, the plant was shut down and did not make any water to give an accurate representation for the hydrogeologic testing. So while we're not making any water for those days, 4 days, we naturally said, okay, it would be precautionary to place the fire department on shuttle service so that we didn't have to turn on and start all of the testing again.
Okay, thank you. To put forward. Pardon? Okay, I was just going to read that. Have the operations report from Larry Spirek, manager of the water capital projects for Lucy. Read the Grafton drinking water system reporting period for March and April 2024 be received and filed, and further that the report be forwarded to the council of the township of Communal. Could I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Thank you, John. Thank you, Britt, seconding that. So we will now go on to project status report from Brant Parkinson. Read the GM Blue plan, the Grafton well replacement. Go ahead, Grant, for that.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So, yeah, since the our last water committee meeting in March, I've been in contact with Greer Galloway and their project manager, Tony Guerrera. So we have a couple of things that are actually happening this week. We have a technical meeting tomorrow with Lucy and Bruce, Greer Galloway, and myself, just to talk about some specific next steps technically about actually connecting the well into the plant, and what the route would be, bringing the water line from the well to the plant and its actual connection into the plant. So it's just some basic things that will Greer Galloway will be using in their design when they prepare their engineering drawings and so on for the new water line. And they'll be, I believe they'll be doing probably some surveying and some geotechnical work just to check the soil conditions for putting that line in, which basically just involves trenching to put in the water line and the power cables. And then the other main thing that Tony Guerrera mentioned to me is I had been asking him about the status of the hydrogeological report. And that report will basically document all the results of the drilling of the well last October. And then there was extensive pumping testing and water quality testing and sampling done in November and December of last year. So that report will compile and document all of that information for the record, basically in a hydrogeological report as a new municipal water source. And Tony indicated that he plans on submitting that draft report to us in the township by the end of this week for review. So that'll be a good milestone, and then we'll review that report. Yeah, so that's sort of the main milestones in progress that I've got from the engineer.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, John.
Just on that report, Grant.
Yeah.
Review it. And is there anything that comes out of that review that says everything looks okay with this, and or something's not okay? And I just wondering, do we get some feedback from that review?
Right. Yeah, and that basically, to speak to your question, that is basically exactly the objective and the intent of that report, is basically to confirm officially for the township, like this is intended to be a new backup water source for the Grafton water system. So the intent of that report is to, and it's being written by Greer Galloway and his hydrogeologist, Chris Rancourt. So it's being prepared by professional engineers and professional hydrogeologists that have been hired to do that work, which will sort of officially confirm that yes, the new well that was drilled is of like adequate and suitable quantity for supplying the town, and adequate suitable quality as well, that will basically address kind of the primary objective of the project, which was to find a new water source that did not have high ammonia. The original project was to source and develop a well that did not have the water quality issues that the existing well number 1 has, which is located beside the plant. We were looking for a better quality water source, which is more similar to well 2, which is the one that's just to the west in the bush there. And we were fortunate that this well was successful on both counts in terms of water supply and water quality. So the overall, so this report is to basically officially document all of that for the record, and it will confirm that yes, it is suitable to actually move to the next step of the project, which is to basically put in, to move into more conventional civil engineering work to connect a water pipe into the water plant and use it.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you, John. Go ahead, Britt.
Through you, Chair, to Grant, forgive me if this was discussed in a prior
meeting, I did have to miss a couple due to health issues in the family, so I'm looking at task 2 drill well, and the amount spent as opposed to the budget is like a 200, more than 200% higher than what was there. You may very well have addressed this before. It shows the budget is 9,568, and yet what was spent was 31,250, almost 258.
Right, yes, trying to recall here I think part of it, I think where some of the money was allocated, I think like task 1 was under, so I think some of the work when the invoices came in may have been like we were well under budget on task number 1, and some of that may have been allocated to task number 2. So I'd have to check, like overall, the budget on the total project is still in line, like we're not over budget on where we are. It may have been, I'll have to check into that, but it may have been how some of the individual invoices were allocated against the individual tasks. I think like the invoices that come in from Greer Galloway, they generally invoice, I believe, just by month. And within their invoices, some of it'll be against certain line items. So their invoices, I don't believe are actually, I don't think it's like task by task invoicing. I think their invoicing comes in just by month. So I'll have to check on the allocations there.
So to that end then, does that mean that task 1 is actually completed, because it still shows in brackets that it's not completed?
It is as of now, yes. Yeah. So we'll update that.
Thank you.
And I guess we'll move on to approving this. At the project status report 5 from Grant Parkinson GM Blue Plan. Read the Grafton well replacement reseeded file. May I have a mover and seconder for that? Thank you, John. Thank you, Britt. And we'll move on to the technical memorandum from Bruce Heitkamp. Read the Grafton production well 2024 first quarter update. Go ahead with that report. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I guess there's 2 items, hydrogeologic items currently on the go. There's the existing permit to take water monitoring program and the production well replacement program. The permit to take water monitoring program was issued in December 2023 and expires 2033. So it's good for about 10 years. We're going to have to eventually amend that permit for the new production well. But with the current permit to take water, there's monitoring conditions. There's actually 14. They've really increased, but the purpose of that is just so that the aquifer and the local environment is not overtaxed, and the wells do not capture leachate or any other contaminants such as road salt in the area. So there's an early warning monitoring wells along Edwardson Street. So the monitoring program includes quarterly water level monitoring, so that's the quantity, and quarterly sampling of the 3 wells along Edwardson Street. We completed the first quarterly inspection in March. And so rather than just summarizing the results at the end of the year, I examined the water quality results and also the water level results and compared them to the various triggers. There was no water level triggers, or no decreasing water level trend. I attached some graphs there, and there was no exceedances in our water quality trigger guidelines. So the first quarterly inspection for 2024 was good. And the second quarterly inspection will be June next month. So the next aspect that I touched base on was the production well replacement program, and Grant mentioned that we're waiting for the draft hydrogeologic report so we can review it. And the purpose of the hydrogeologic report is to, provide a baseline of information so that, the construction details, performance details, and this report will support the permit to take water amendment, and it'll also be used by the source water protection modeling update. And the Conservation Authority manages the source water protection with the Ministry of the Environment. And coincidentally, they just touched base yesterday. And I told them that the draft report was due soon, and we'd be looking at updating the source water protection shortly. So the next hydrogeologic steps, let's see, with replacing PW1 with PW3. I'm repeating myself here, but we got to review the draft report, finalize that report, submit it to the source water protection, and then submit the permit to take water amendment. And then while that's all taking place, I guess we can work on connecting the well to the plant. So I think it was Nancy who was asking me about budgets and stuff, and so I just summarized my budgets. I don't know if we've done that, for 2024. There's been a significant increase in the lab fees. They're almost $8,000. They were $3,700, let's say, or $4,000 before, so they've essentially doubled. Although my rates have gone up, I've basically kept the budget for the monitoring kind of the same as 2023. And I just plan to order quarterly. I'll follow that budget for 2024, and just unless there's extras, and budget quarterly with the sampling events. Then there's also a budget and for the building of the new well. I do spend some time, discussing the project, these meetings, reviewing the project peer review, and then there's the permit to take water amendment, source water protection, although there's a separate modeling aspect. And if I'm not mistaken, I think, Grant, we set aside $60,000 in the new well construction program. But it should be in there. And I'm not clear where my budget, and I asked Nancy about this, where to oversee the PW3 construction budget is supposed to go. I think we set aside $100,000 for hydrogeology. That was for testing and reporting. I'm not sure if I'm nibbling into that $100,000 portion. Anyways, I gave a budget to for the PW3 extras at $12,800. And that's about it for my quarterly inspection and production well 3 update.
Go ahead, John.
Just wanted to hear from Grant, granting the budget for the new well, and Bruce's comments just now on the work he'll have to do with the group for the new well. Is it in the new well budget to cover Bruce's expenses?
Yeah, as far as I understand, the budget for the overall project, which I believe was 1.5 million or 1.7 million. I'm kind of going by memory here, but I think that budget was meant to be sort of like all inclusive. Like, in other words, it was including the engineering, which is like Greer Galloway, and then just general oversight and review from me from GM Blue Plan. It included the actual drilling of the well from G Hart and Sons, which that was like a separate contract where contractually anyway, the township hired the well driller directly. So it includes that and the hydrogeological study. And then it'll also include like the construction. The township will at some point have to hire another contractor, like a site civil contractor for trenching and installation of the pipelines and so on. So I believe the overall budget that the township got the funding from was sort of all inclusive, was to include all the players basically that are involved with the project.
Okay.
I think it also included some time for engineering review, such as GM Blue Plan too. And
yes, I believe so. Yes, yeah.
So I think we're in there. I wasn't too sure where.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but I think it was like my time, Bruce's time, Greer Galloway, Art Drilling, and then whoever the site civil contractor is going to be as well.
Can I have a follow-up?
Oh, you certainly can.
So just to follow up on all that, I think with the treasurer, when we get the new person on board, is that what's happening? We make sure we understand where all the pieces are that have to go to the new well as opposed to existing. And we should be able to see that somehow. And I don't know what you were alluding to that, but I'm seeing now that what I'm hearing is we want to make sure those pieces are all allocated properly. We see a clear picture of all the costs.
Yeah, through you, Chair, that's exactly where I was going with my wanting to review the budget because of the working pieces here.
Yeah.
And understanding and there are questions on that budget. So it's really not, it's a financial situation. It's not so much as it is the contract or anything with Lucy or with the new well.
Thank you, Greg. Would you like to add to that? I'm sure you've got it all down what we're waiting for.
Yeah, no, through the chair. I know Nicole was pretty on top of it, so I think as long as the consultants have and contractors have contacted her, advising her of different costs that might be coming up or being accrued. I do believe that she had it categorized in the budget. But then again, I haven't looked at the budget. I'm not sure how she has laid it out. But I do know going forward that she has left notes for the new treasurer to come on board. So she does have information there for them. However, I will have a discussion with the interim treasurer about some of these concerns going forward and have a discussion with her about where she sees it going in the next little while, as in maybe holding a special meeting so that everyone can be aware of the budget and how it's laid out.
And where we're at. So we'll leave that with you. And
I'll have a discussion with the new treasurer and ask her to maybe take a look at that sooner rather than later.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Amanda. I would just like to add that how fortunate we are to have Lucy and all the engineers and Adam sitting here. It's very and all the information that's coming forward, it's really assuring us, or myself and everyone here, how fortunate we are that we're in good hands and the water system is excellent and moving forward. I really appreciate everybody's work on this. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and one other comment, I think I called Nicole Nancy. Sorry about that, just to correct that.
Okay. We did have a Nancy, but
I meant Nicole.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we're starting to wonder if we had like someone else on staff. So I will move then, if there's no other questions or comments, that the technical memorandum from Bruce Highcamp, GOA Camp Limited regarding the first quarterly update in 2024 for the Grafton production wells be received and filed. I have a mover and seconder. Thank you, Britt. Seconder, thank you, John. So we'll move on to number 11, new business for future discussion. I think we have a list going for you, Yolanda. So thank you so much for that. The one question I had was the modeling study, the RFP for that. Do you have any information on that? Please and thank you.
Some information as well, but from what I've heard, so it is now out of my hands, RFP wise, because that's not something that the clerk's office typically does. But the CAO is aware of it. He has been given all of the information for the RFP. I do believe that he was going to either set up a conference call or discussion with Lakefront Utilities to determine if they were willing to help the township and collaborate on an RFP going forward for the water modeling study. I'm not sure what has entailed, and I don't know, Adam, if you have any information pertaining to that. Thank you, Adam.
Certainly, I sat down at the CAO approximately 2 weeks ago and we discussed courses of action. He was looking specifically for assistance with writing an RFP for water model. As you recall, I did provide the committee with information for a preliminary study for our water tower some time ago. It was provided by Arctos Engineering free of cost. Now, I had in the past produced some very similar RFPs to staff here at the township to try and guide the writing of an RFP. The author of those studies was in fact someone from who is now Arctos Engineering. So I said that, well, I don't have the expertise myself to write this RFP. I can certainly put you in touch with someone who can guide you on where to go and get this done. So I've left it back with the CAO, and I think that I've left them in good hands considering the quality of the report and certainly the furnished to you. Now, I don't know what the procurement process will be within the township, but we provided the support to ensure that they can proceed and be successful. And we remain available should they need further assistance.
And thank you so much too for your gratis information that you passed me. It's very informative. We'll leave that here for you. And you landed give us an update on what's over. Go ahead, Chris.
Through you, Chair, the bylaw for our water system and for the users on the water system and for the exemptions, I'm not sure where that is at, but I do note that on the 2024 budget, there's no revenue showing for the exempted customers. So I'm wondering why that will get on there. So I think we probably need to be looking at that bylaw. And I do have some input that I'd like to put in on that. But
go ahead, John. Are you're complete, right? Yes.
My question is back to yours of water one. If there's things in motion, is it something we should have on the agenda on a monthly basis to see that? Just give us some update every morning as to where we're at with water modeling and maybe the exempt customer bylaw too. Like, should those be agenda items? And I'm kind of throwing it out to the group saying, do we need to ask about it or should it be automatically on the agenda?
Go ahead, Brett. Through you, Chair. I tend to agree with John here because it's hard to keep track of stuff if we don't have it on the agenda, so that would be very helpful.
Would that be possible, when to have those items on the agenda?
If the committee so chooses, sorry, through your chair. If the committee so chooses, yeah, they can make a motion to potentially have those additional items on each agenda. There's nothing to say that there will be an update every other month on them, but at least they're on the agenda as a reminder.
Would like the motion to that effect?
Yes, please.
We'll make a motion, or no, let John do it, you can say that.
Add water modeling, RFP status, and the exempted customer bylaw on the agenda, just for status update,
And the water one,
the one.
because the exemption part of it.
Yes.
Would you second that?
I would.
Thank you. All in favor on that motion? And are you having an addition to that, or are you good with that? Thank you. Seeing, I think we've got new business covered. Does anybody else have anything else you'd like to add? Adam, is there anything you'd like to add? Gentlemen, is there anything you'd like to add? Seeing none, we will move on to the next meeting is scheduled, tentatively scheduled for June 10th, 2024. Sorry, July 10th. We very well could have June 10th at 3 p.m. in the council chambers at the municipal building here, and it is available via Zoom conference. Seeing no new business or anything else, motion to adjourn. Thank you, Britt. Thank you, all in favor. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Adam, for your patience.
That's,
Bye.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.